All right, welcome everyone. Let's just jump right into today's explainer, where we are booting up an ancient, incredibly profound Buddhist text called the Abhidhamma. Specifically, we're looking at the Compendium of Conditionality. Think of this text as the literal game engine of reality and suffering. We're going to decode the ultimate algorithm of existence today, translating thousands of years of dense philosophical weight into a system you can actually visualize, understand, and maybe even use. Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the code of reality, then we'll look at booting up the system, interacting with the algorithm, the inevitable game over and respawn, and finally, the complete timeline of suffering. Okay, kicking things off with Section 1, the code of reality and understanding conditionality. So, what's the basic logic running in the background of, well, everything? In the Abhidhamma, it's strictly defined as conditionality. Basically, it's the view that an effect is brought about by an assembly of conditions occurring together. It means absolutely nothing exists in isolation. Zero. Every single glitch, every feature, or every moment of suffering you experience happens only because a very specific, perfectly aligned set of conditions triggered it to happen. Now, the source text breaks this reality down into three totally distinct mechanisms. On the left side, you've got conditioning states. This is the raw back-end code, the efficacious causes that make everything else arise. Then, on the right, you have conditioned states. This is the rendered UI of your life. It's the consciousness, the mental factors, the actual material phenomena you experience day to day. But here's the really brilliant part. Crucial to this whole compendium of conditionality is a third mechanism, the 24 conditioning forces. These are the invisible relational links that dictate exactly how that back-end code renders into your experienced reality. We're talking root conditions, object conditions, frequency conditions, 24 of them, seamlessly weaving mind and matter together. They act as the absolute structural glue between the raw, unseen code and your rendered existence. And honestly, it all boils down to this profound, yet surprisingly simple formula. When this exists, that comes to be. With the arising of this, that arises. Keep this ultimate algorithmic if-then statement in mind as we go forward, because it is the core Buddhist dictum running silently in the background of your entire existence. Moving right along to Section 2, booting up the system and spawning into the game. Okay, so here is the famous 12-step formula of dependent arising. Let's look at the first 4 steps of your spawn sequence. Step 1, ignorance conditions karmic formations. Because you enter the system completely blind to the rules, unable to see the true nature of reality, you end up acting out of craving and ignorance. These volitional actions generate karma. Step 2, those karmic formations condition consciousness. So your karma creates this massive momentum that literally boots up a resultant consciousness. Step 3, consciousness conditions mind and matter. This is the exact moment your avatar actually renders into existence, taking on a mental and physical form. And finally, step 4, mind and matter condition the 6 sense bases. Your avatar is now fully equipped with physical and mental sensors, your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. You're officially in the game. All right, Section 3, interacting with the algorithm and the engagement loop. Now that you're spawned in, let's trace how this engagement loop hooks you. Step 5, those 6 sense bases condition contact. Your newly rendered sensors bump into an object in your environment. Step 6, contact immediately conditions feeling. You get an instant hit. It's pleasant, painful, or maybe neutral. Step 7, feeling conditions craving. Now, the text makes a fascinating point here. Even neutral feelings arouse craving simply because they're peaceful. You get a literal dopamine hit, and you want more of it, or you desperately want a painful feeling to stop. Now, listen closely, because this specific gap right here between feeling and craving is absolutely crucial. It is the one point in the entire code where human agency can actually step in and break the loop through mindfulness. But if you leave it unchecked, we hit Step 8. That initial craving hardens and conditions clinging. You hit subscribe, you lock in, and you cling. And this toxic clinging, it isn't just about wanting a second slice of cake. The initial greed intensifies into 4 specific, corrupting types of clinging. There's clinging to sense pleasures, an absolute obsession with sights, sounds, and tastes. There's clinging to wrong view, where you rigidly hold on to flawed philosophies. Then there's clinging to rites and ceremonies, which is the blind belief that performing mere rituals is going to save you. And finally, there's clinging to a doctrine of self, where you obsessively identify with the temporary, rendered world around you as I or mine. It literally corrupts your save file. Which brings us to Section 4, game over and respawn. The inevitable crash. Let's look at the final phase of these 12 steps. Here is the inevitable crash. Step 9, your intense clinging conditions existence. This means you've built up so much active karmic energy, so much relentless momentum, that it simply demands a physical manifestation. Step 10. That existence conditions birth. That overwhelming momentum forces a brand new mundane resultant consciousness to arise. You are forced to respawn. But immediately, step 11 hits. Birth conditions decay, death, sorrow, and lamentation. And finally, step 12. Thus arises the whole mass of suffering. The text is totally definitive here. Every single bit of suffering between life and death originates directly from that birth. It is a painful, game-over screen that just immediately loops you right back to the start. And finally, Section 5. The timeline of suffering, mapping the four Sankapa. To really understand how to beat this game, you need to see how these 12 steps stretch across time. The four Sankapa are basically the four sections of your existence, and they reveal a perfectly structured loop. Take a look at this. Your previous life consisted of active karma, represented by your past ignorance and formations. That past code directly dictated your present life resultant, meaning your current consciousness, your mind, matter, and feelings. But look at the third row down. Right now, in your present life, you are generating brand new active karma through your current craving, clinging, and existence. Your gameplay today is actively writing the code for your future life resultant, which guarantees your future birth, decay, and death. It's a completely self-sustaining, airtight loop. Now, you might be wondering, who wrote this code? When did it start? Well, here is a massive plot twist. Buddhism categorically rejects the notion of a first cause. There is literally no original starting line. The source text explains that the 12-step formula begins with ignorance simply because, practically speaking, you have to start teaching a circle somewhere. Ignorance is a predominant factor, so it's a convenient entry point. But temporally, there is no beginning. This engine has just been running forever. Which leaves us with one incredibly massive question. If you are trapped in a constant respawn cycle that has literally been running forever with no first cause, and it is driven entirely by the endless loop of your own craving and clinging, how on earth do you ever finally log off? I'll leave you to ponder that one. Thanks for exploring the code with us today.